back, and this is AC on the Short Alpha Clash podcast, where I'll talk all things Alpha Clash on my way to work. Now, I want to talk about the XP network. So let's dig into that. So if you don't know, Rising Empire Studio have switched from, I think it was Card.io, to XP Network for, well, a multitude of things, but the one I want to talk about is the running of events and the show of events, all joining them and actually performing the events. Now I know there's a whole part of this that goes into gaining this XP and making it a platform for for giving away XP as an sort of in-universe currency, in lack of a better word, where you can use it on their Shopify shop. I have not done that yet. I have no experience of doing that. I expect it to work at some point, but I haven't done that, so I'm not going to speak to that, whether that works or not. What I can say is that I think it seems to me like a good way to be able to hand out small prizes much more easily, especially in online tournaments, but also in smaller physical tournaments where you can give away this XP for something useful, but only in the Alpha Clash store, right? So it is a way to do prize support, whether that is from the store, or from Rising Empire Studio as a central hub. That part, I think, is a good idea. At least it's a clever idea to do that way. That being said, I am going to talk about the experience I have had now in 2 tournaments running on this XP network. One was this past weekend, where we were running this test tournament for the XP networks, where the guys at Rising Empire Studio could sort of get their training in using this system, and the first time was the weekend previous to the last one, where there was an awakening in England, where I went. I talked about this last week. That too ran on the XP network as a platform. Now, my experience is this: the functionality in XP network in order to do this, and I haven't been arranging any form of this. So it's only from a front user experience. So if the event organizers have a different, well, they do have a different command interface and different options, different opportunities to do things in the system. I'm going to speak a little bit about what I know about that, but that's not much. So my experience is only from a participant side. From that side, the functionality in the application, which is just quote unquote a website, seems fairly good. It does seem like it has all the necessary features. There isn't anything flashy about it, or haven't noticed, but it does have all the bits I need to participate, whether that be in online or in-person events. So that being said, the functionality is there. Now, this system is, and that's an important note, the system is in beta at the moment. So we're not even there yet. So we are all guinea pigs in building up this. As long as I know I'm a guinea pig, I'm okay with it. So, but we are. So when I now tell about the stuff that did not work please remember that this is the beta version, and the point of me pointing out that they were not there is, well, I won't say why I say these things, why I point them out, but just remember that it is a beta release, right? So we're not in actual production yet. We are the guinea pigs for this release, or for this product. That being the performance of the application, the performance of the system was a bit lackluster, and what that means, it was very slow to react. In both cases, it didn't quite update. It didn't push things in a timely manner. And when we were doing the guinea pig event last weekend, that didn't really matter. But when we were doing the real quote unquote awakening, time constraints matter. So we simply resorted to to simply saying out loud who goes to which table, start playing, to not spend time on actually seeing this on our phones or wherever we look at that, because the system was slow. That did not change from the weekend before last and last weekend. It was still a very slow system. Whether that is the number of users or not, I don't know. That would be a really troublesome thing if it's the number of users, not the functionality done. But it was slow on calculating these things, or whatever it does between rounds. Another thing is that the beta version had an error, was that when two people have been playing a game, they cannot both register the results. I think that is sort of a key functionality. I'm a bit stunned by it even showing up, why this is not done in the standard production test prior to release, even for beta version. This is something you could script your way to. But nonetheless, it isn't there. So at least it wasn't this weekend or the weekend before. So as far as I understood. So the organizers simply just have to accept it. They had to do it manually, quote unquote, where they should only be handling the cases where the two players disagree on the results. But that was a feature, the only, by the way, feature I don't get how ever made it into something we are actually using. But that feature did not work. It is there, and I'm quite certain they will get it to work. Remember, it's a beta, but that was sort of annoying. Luckily, Alpha Clash is a fairly friendly community. One of the most friendly card communities I've experienced, and I have not had very many bad experiences. So, that being said, it was not a big issue in neither of the two tournaments, but it is a thing that sort of perplexes me, in lack of a better term. Now, the final thing I want to say to this is, and this is really a minor thing, and that's just why this is last. There were some browsers that, on some phones, that just had a mistake. They kept had an error, not by user mistake. That was the point. It just had an error for certain functions. Now that I understand, there are a myriad of phones and browsers and tablets and combinations of those, PCs, whatever people were using, that may or may not act a little bit different. That is, I think, very hard to sort out, and I completely understand if that is not fixed in the beta. That could be some older versions of something where they just don't work. All of this said, these were the errors, the loading times. Even some were kicked off and had to sign in again on the platform. Some was kicked off and then a moment later was in. All these sort of weird interactions. All that said, I think Garrett from Rising Post to put it in the chat on the last weekend's sort of test run of this. Well, this is why we're testing it. I completely agree. This is why we're testing it. We are the guinea pigs, so to say, to them learning the platform as well, and also for the platform to get real people interacting, because real people don't always do what we think they will do. we act weirdly in other ways than the developers might expect us to do. So I think I think it's a great idea to do that test run. I believe they would do one more this week. So before using the application on the events at ClashCon, where they also would have XPNetwork technicians ready to go. All in all, as I also mentioned in the beginning, the functionality of it is okay. It's all there. Barring the load times of the application, it worked slowly, but it worked. And the point of me pointing this out is that I think it worked. Did it have some issues? Yes, but we're in beta. That is okay. So all I think it works. Now, I'm not going to the price structure or anything like that, but I am going to say one thing that impressed me. I'm saving that for last, and one thing that sort of stubbed my toe on that has nothing to do with these beta functionalities, right? Functionality issues. The one I stumped my toe on is this percentage thing. It's a choice how you set up your Swiss tournament, if you like. That's a choice you make on how you're pairing players. Now, it does lead to a feel bad when players with the same score, the same number of points, the same number of wins, and the same number of losses, and the same number of ties, are not sharing the let's say the first place, right? So two players could have, let's say, 10 points, the same number of wins, the same number of everything that they could interact with about the game, they played into that. But the ranking of them in the tournament is based on something, a percentage of how hard your opponents was, how much they lost and won. Now, you can't choose your opponents. The system will do that for you. But it is very weird to me that that would be the deciding factor on who wins first prize, right? That you had less, more unfortunate or less capable opponents than your opponent, could do that you lose the Pro Tour instead of winning it. That is weird to me. And that is a design choice, how to do that. I am just happy I'm not the one that has to figure out how to solve that. But it does leave a bit of a bad feel. And I think that bad feel will only be greater in a more competitive environment. It didn't matter much at the Awakening or the Guinea Pig tournament, but it would make up for a really bad feel, I think, if we were to experience the same at Pro Tour. All that said, I want to end on a positive note, and I do. As I said at the very beginning, I don't know anything about the organizers' side of the application, what their interfaces look like, and how that works. I know nothing about that. because I haven't seen it. Well, not that I know nothing about it. I did get, and this is the interesting part. It seems like they have, in fact, and this is why I have great belief that the system will get to work. All these kinks will be sorted. They have thought about this. One of the things that happened to me at the tournament this weekend, the guinea pig tournament, right, was that I joined a little bit too late. Now, ordinarily, if you join too late and the competition is going, tough luck. You can't make it. It's locked in. Not so. I think it was Garrett, actually. Thank you a lot for that. Managed to manually add me, even though the first game was already running, and the pairing has been done. I just got a buy. I think that's amazing that you can do that. That is not one of the first features I would guess would be needed to be in the system. The other thing is that they could remove players, of course. People who, that makes more sense, that they could remove players that didn't show up, and all people who had to drop, stuff like that. They could remove them from the game, so that wouldn't be pairings with them. So it wouldn't end up half of the players not having anyone to play because they sort of left the game, right? So the back end, the functionality on the back end seems to work pretty well, at least in terms of functionality, and that is something that gives me some kind of belief that this is actually a system that could work. Now, though, there are some pricing issues about what it should cost and stuff like that. I have no insight into that. I just know that they are there. But from a user and a functionality point of view, it seems to be very good and do all the stuff it needs to do. So, yeah, great show. Just let's fix the mine issues, and I think it will work quite well. Whether that ties into Shopify, how well it ties into the Shopify shop, I don't know. We will have to see. I think it is really interesting if it does. Whether I can combine one purchase with XP along with real world money, or how that works, I don't know. Let's see. For now, I'm storing up my Monopoly XP for a later purchase when something really cool shows along. Anyway, that's it for me. Don't forget to like and share and subscribe and all that stuff, and share this with other people who's playing Alpha Clash, if you like what I'm doing. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.